Good evening and welcome tonight. President Jonathan vows to crush Boko Haram, insists elections must hold on rescheduled dates. Federal government officials tour areas recaptured from militant sect as 158 people abducted by the terrorists reunite with their families. More concerns about the distribution of the PVCs across the country. Our big story tonight looks at the unfolding issues. And leaders hold talks on how to enforce Ukraine's ceasefire as more shelling is reported in the eastern part of the country.
And on business news, Securities and Exchange Commission and the Central Bank of Nigeria announced plans to revive the capital market.
And on sports news, former Portugal international Luis Figo proposes 48-team World Cup format if he wins the 2015 FIFA presidential election.
We begin tonight with further assurance from President Goodluck Jonathan that the 2015 general elections will hold as scheduled on March 28th and April 11th. The president made the promise as he commissioned 4 naval ships at the naval dockyard in Lagos. President Jonathan also commended the military for its efforts at tackling the insurgency. He reaffirmed his administration's commitments to restoring peace to the northeast. Our correspondent, Oreoluwa Shunibare, reports.
If anything should top the agenda of the presidency at this moment, many would say it is the security of the nation, in the air, on land, and sea. With the Air Force and Army having received some equipment for the mission, today it's the turn of the Navy. At the naval dockyard in Lagos, security is tight, and rightly so. It's a gathering of top military brass from Nigeria, the United States of America, China, the Nigerian police, ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, and traditional rulers. After the traditional guard salute by the service chiefs and minister of defense, the guest of honor arrives. First, the Chief of Naval Staff takes the podium and spells out the reason for this gathering.
It is gladdening that we are gathered today to this historic milestone commissioning ceremony of 4 vessels as proof of the progress being made in our recapitalization effort. The only time that we enjoyed this was during President Alai Shehu Shagari, during which 3 ships were commissioned at the same time. Today we are commissioning 4. That means a lot of money must have been invested. And Mr. President indeed has taken ownership of the Nigerian Navy.
Then it is the turn of the President and Commander-in-Chief, who beyond the event touches on a host of other burning topics, from insurgency in the Northeast to the 2015 general elections.
Premium is placed on improved national security. This includes food security, as well as employment generation. The high dependence of the nation's economy on offshore resources, as well as the enormous potentials of the maritime sector to contribute to our food security and employment generation, makes provision of effective maritime security very imperative. Therefore, the Nigerian Navy, as the lead maritime security agency, deserves all the support it needs. So Nigerians can see that the present administration is leaving no stone unturned to improve the capacity of our armed forces, not just the Navy. Today we are here for a naval ceremony, but also the Army and the Air Force who have built sufficient capacity. And let me also use this platform to promise my good countrymen and women that we will rout Boko Haram. Our capacity has increased sufficiently, and our men, officers and men, are doing wonderfully well in the north. And we must conduct our elections as scheduled by INEC.
Then it's time for the commissioning and inspection of the ships.
In the honor of our Almighty Father,
To defend our nation and protect our territorial waters. Two objectives set by President Jonathan, and two objectives that are not just crucial to Nigeria's survival, but ultimately Africa's. All eyes will now be on the Nigerian Navy and other military agencies to see how they handle the task set before them. Orolu Ashonibare, Channels Television News.
While the president is vowed to root out insurgents in the northeast, there are indications that the president's renewed determination is already yielding desired results. This comes as the Minister of Youth Development and former governor of Adamawa State, Mr. Boni Haruna, led a federal government delegation to arrest two areas that have been recaptured from Boko Haram in the northeast. The minister could not hold back his tears as he met victims of the insurgency who've returned to their communities in Adamawa State. He promised that the government will help them settle back into their communities. Our correspondent Amaka Okafo has more on this.
Ruined houses, burnt vehicles and razed buildings, some of the damage is done by the extremist sect Boko Haram in the northeast. Some of the communities in Adamawa State have been rescued from the hands of the insurgents. The victims are returning home to pick up their lives. The Minister of Youth Development and former governor of Adamawa State, who led a delegation of the federal government to meet some of the victims of the insurgency, could not hold back tears when he saw the destruction by the extremists. Grateful to be back home, some of the residents, however, wondered how they would rebuild their lives. While the military says it has taken firm control of the area and dismissed fears of fresh attacks, the federal government is upbeat that things will return to normal as it is working through the National Emergency Management Agency to rebuild the communities.
As they return, they will not remain in their range longer than necessary. Of course, their immediate needs, their short-term needs, their long-term needs. So we're here basically for immediate intervention that can bring about normalization of life in these areas. And that's why having been part of the leadership here, of having governed this place, the whole idea of coming here is to build this confidence.
The military had launched an offensive which has led to the liberation of several communities, including Mubi, Hong, Gombe, Meha, Ganye and Michika local government. Nigerians hope that the exercise will further clear several other communities still under the control of the sect so that residents of these communities can return to their normal lives. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
And about 158 people who were freed from Boko Haram's captivity last month in Yobe State have been reunited with their families. The abductees were captured in Katako town in Gujba local government area of the state following an attack by the insurgents on the town located about 22 kilometers south of Damaturu, the state capital. After regaining their freedom, the abductees were made to undergo rehabilitation by security agents before their eventual release to the Yobe state government. Presenting the victims to their family members, a chairman of the State Committee on Rehabilitation and Resettlement of Insurgency Victims, Ahmed Guneri, 158 persons made up of 62 adults and 96 children were brought to the camp. They were abducted late last year.
158 abductees held hostage by the dreaded Boko Haram, waiting patiently to be reunited with their families after a rehabilitation period with the government. Mainly women and children, they were abducted from Katarko town in Gujba local government area of Yobe State, where insurgents have repeatedly attacked. This day, they get to reunite with family and are also receiving government support.
His Excellency deemed it fit to assign us to come and show some concern to the victims, including the family.
15 of the women here are now widows. Their husbands were killed in the attack on the town of Katarko. The local government chairman says that the adults will each go home with several relief items in addition to cash gifts.
Cash gift is going to be 30,000, and this is the amount.
Malam Abdurrahman Dauda, who alerted the authorities on the release of his family in Kasaisa village in the outskirts of Damaturu, the state capital, says they were in serious trauma when he met with them before handing them over for rehabilitation.
This is my wife that God has rescued from the hands of Boko Haram militants. A friend saw her in Kaisesa village and called to tell me. So I used a truck to convey her and others and handed them over to security agents for further verification.
Some of the abductees also narrate how they were treated in captivity.
They did not maltreat us since whisking us away for 3 weeks. We had enough food and drinks all through our stay in captivity. Anytime they enter our apartment to preach their ideologies to us, they ask us to avoid looking at them. We told them we will not practice their style of religion, so they agreed to release us, saying we should go and join the pagans who have the symbol of green, white, green flag in Nigeria, and we'll meet with you people one day.
The peaceful release of these detainees is the first ever since the commencement of the Boko Haram insurgency in Yobe state. Many say this may be a sign that the Boko Haram sect are easing up on hostilities and killings for the greater good. Gimba Umar, Channels Television News.
And while normalcy is being restored in the northeast ahead of the polls, federal lawmakers in the House of Representatives have deferred a debate on the use of soldiers for next month's general elections. A motion to stop the federal government from deploying troops during the polls, sponsored by the minority leader of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, was stepped down following contribution by some lawmakers that the issue was a subject of litigation. The motion, which was referred to a joint committee until Tuesday the 24th, also asked the House to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the role played by the military and government officials who featured in the alleged secret audio tape on last year's governorship elections in Ekiti State.
The first issue that came up at Thursday's plenary in the House of Representatives was a matter of urgent national importance raised by a lawmaker from Akwa Ibom State, Robinson Owak, on the attack at a political rally in Okrika, Rivers State, Tuesday. Mr. Owak said the spate of political violence across the country called for urgent and decisive measures, causing the House to mandate the Nigerian police to investigate, arrest and prosecute all persons involved in the Okrika attack, in which a staff of Channels Television was stabbed by some unidentified hoodlums.
The House is worried with the state of political violence across the country. Security agencies are not doing enough to ensure that the rights of the citizens are protected. The House again notes that the attack took place in spite of warnings by local politicians against the All Progressives Congress rally in Okrika. And an attack of such magnitude was carried out without proper reactionary measures by the police and other security agencies. The House is concerned that such an open and audacious attack could encourage further political violence if the perpetrators of such heinous attack are not brought to justice immediately.
Still on the elections was a motion on the deployment of soldiers during the general elections. The motion, sponsored by the minority leader of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, was however stepped down as another lawmaker, Karimi Sunday, raised a point of order, saying the House cannot comment on any matter pending in court. Sustaining all points of order raised on the motion, the Speaker said the matter was a sensitive issue which he expected every member to take very seriously.
In view of the sensitivity of this matter, And with the unfolding events in the country, please, I want us to take this matter very seriously. Very, very seriously.
He appealed to lawmakers on the need to seek counsel on the motion. He referred it to the Joint Committees on Rules and Business, Justice and Judiciary to advise the House on the matter on the next legislative day. Omelogo, Nadi Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, students of the Ekiti State University take to the streets to protest a fee hike. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.